No, so I thought I was joking. My wife was going to McDonald's, and I told her, I was like, "Oh yeah, give me one of those McCoffees." And then I'm looking at the cup now, and it's like McCafe. That that is,
You
I
didn't
wasn't.
know that?
No,
That's been
that's
around forever, I feel like.
that's dumb as hell.
It's branding, Ben. That's why they have a multi-billion-dollar company and we
And I have a
don't.
podcast.
Yeah. Words about books. Talking about things that aren't McDonald's related since 2020. I'm Nate, and as always, joined by my co-host Ben.
Over 70 listeners per episode served.
Nice.
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 But unfortunately, we're not here to talk about McDonald's today.
Yeah, we're talking about Caliban's War, part of the Expanse, which is the sequel to Leviathan Wakes, which we talked about last year. Go listen to that. So, I guess the best way to start with this is by saying that we really liked Leviathan Wakes, right?
So I do have something
was-
I want to say up front. And that is, I did like Leviathan Wakes quite a bit. And I actually picked it as my book of the year, or whatever that award you do is.
Yes, the book of the year. I put it in my top 3. We had a little fun at its expense. That's what we do on this podcast. I don't know if you've noticed, but we really did like it. We promise.
Yeah, we did. Well, and I thought it was good. Like, I thought it was an important, shot in the arm of hard science fiction, which has been kind of I don't want to say it's a dead genre. I know there's a lot of people doing work in it, but nothing had really gotten a lot of mainstream success.
And I liked it so much, I actually wanted to read the sequel that same year, like right after. I just unfortunately didn't have time. Or maybe I should say, fortunately I didn't have time. Segue, Ben!
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't have the same feeling. I had a concern at the end. And I have a friend I talked to about The Expanse, and he was very mad at me. And I don't think he actually even listened to the episodes when I told him that I did not like Holden.
So we can call him a punk ass, because he won't listen to this.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. What a jerk, am I right?
I said at the end of those episodes on Leviathan Wakes that if this goes too much focus on Holden, then it's going to be a problem. And my verdict here is that it is a problem. And so here's the thing I'm going to say up front. Caliban's War is good sci-fi. I mean, in terms of like everything that is coming out around it and near it, it is very good. I understand why people like it. I don't. And I don't for a few very particular reasons. The thing that I am most interested in these books is the world building and the proto-molecule subplot, which I feel like should not be a subplot, but in this book is. And I'm sure that...
You think so?
Yeah, I think this is a subplot. I don't think... I could be wrong. You know, The Expanse is a popular show. This has been out forever. I haven't watched the show. That's another thing I'm going to talk about.
That's another thing we need to point out. We haven't watched the show, and watching the show almost certainly changes how you read the books.
I read a couple of interviews with the authors where there's 2 authors, by the way. James S.A. Corey is 2 people. If you didn't know, if you're listening to this and you didn't know that, go back and listen to the Leviathan Wakes episode. I'm not going to rehash everything about that. Essentially, this started as like a role-playing game that these guys would play privately. One of these guys made up this world, and he had his friends come in and play the game, and then one of the guys was like, they were all writers. One of the guys was like, we should turn this into a book. Like, this is real potential. I agree with him. The problem is the characters. The problem is the humans in the book. I think that the setting is great. I think that the near future tech is great. The proto-molecule adds a little bit of horror and sci-fi to keep your attention. I think that's all great. Holden is from a different book.
Yep.
If you hadn't told me if I didn't know there were 2 authors, I would know something was up, because it definitely feels like it's written by 2 authors. I don't know which author does which. I don't know how they divide the work.
We had a guess.
I cannot help but notice there is an even number of point of view characters and an even number of chapters. And so my guess would be we alternate and then edit each other's work. That's what you and I have done in the past. The difference is you and I have always clearly labeled this one by Ben, this one by Nate. And they were short stories designed to be somewhat self-contained because we knew we couldn't really mesh each other's styles. And even then it becomes a problem because we started sharing characters and we had different visions for those characters and we had different ways of writing those characters. And
for example, a horror character became a slapstick comedian man.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, we were both, it's not like we disagreed on what should happen with him. It just happened that way because we wrote things differently. And I was like, oh, that is funny. Yeah, let's do that. But then, like, it gets away from what was set up and paid off. I don't necessarily think that the two author system works in these books. I think the Expanse TV show probably makes it a bit better because I think an actor giving a good performance could add a lot of what's missing to these characters. And
yeah, I would agree.
I read the interview where they asked, you know, there's so much material about the Expanse. Like, where do you recommend a reader start? One author said he recommends they start with the show.
Oh.
The other did not.
Oh.
The other said that the books were different enough that he thought there was still a good reason to read the books. I'm probably reading way too much into this, but I think like that right there, I think I like the guy who said you should read the books. And I probably don't like the guy who said you should watch the show. And that's me. I mean, like, I like different stuff. I wanted this to be something it doesn't want to be. So I'm getting that out of the way up front. I did not like this book, probably in the extreme. There were moments I liked it. I've given you the spoiler here. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I think it's a perfectly fine book, but I don't like Holden. I don't like his crew. I don't want anything to do with them. And it is very apparent to me at this stage that this book does not want to be what I want it to be. So the rest of this episode, if you are a huge fan of The Expanse who is looking to take a victory lap here by listening to another gushing review, that's not what this is going to be.
Thanks for your download. Download the next 2 episodes just so that we get those, and you could leave.
I don't want to piss people off, but yeah, I'm going to point out some flaws because I feel like not a lot of people are doing that.
Well, we're not here to piss people off. We're here to give our honest opinions on what worked, what didn't work, and maybe we're being humorous while we do it. So
I agree. That's the words about book's mission statement.
Yeah, exactly. We're not here to piss you off, but we might piss you off. That's not our goal, but it might happen.
Often
it's a
the
byproduct.
result.
Yeah. So when I was talking about doing this book, you did say something along the lines of, it's a 9-book series. I don't know if I want to lock ourselves into 9 books. And I said, with this series, we're just going to go until we don't want to go anymore. So where are you at with that, Ben? Do you want to do a book 3? This could be closing thoughts, too, if you want.
No, we could do it now, I guess, just for the people who are going to shut it off as soon as we start making fun of it. If it were just me, I'm done. If you want to keep going, I don't hate it. Like, I don't think I couldn't stand reading another book, but there's still things I'm interested in. There's still things I want to see. I really like the proto-molecule plot. I really want to know what's going on with that. And there is a tease at the end that very much almost hooks me, but I'm like, I just know it's not going to pay off the way I want it to. Yeah. I just know it's not going to pay off the way I want it to, but it is a good tease. So if you want to read a book 3, I'm fine doing it on the podcast. But if it's just me for myself, my own reading, I'm done.
And now it's time for me to come clean. You already know this, but I'm about 70% of the way through the book. I spent this last week editing the episode on Agatha Christie, so I could not pound it all out at the end. I okay, you all know me. You all know that I complain about book length, 605-page book. Here's my other complaint. It could have been 150 to 200 pages shorter and been even better.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of fat that needed to be trimmed here, which we will get into. But that is my take on it. I will have this read by the next time we record. I'll have final thoughts on it.
So we'll focus on just the early part of the book. Probably, I don't think we'll get much past in this episode. If you've read the book or if you've watched the series, I don't think we'll get much past where Holden and his crew go to, what is it, Ganymede?
Ganymede.
Yeah. I don't think we'll get much past the Ganymede Falls portion of the book.
All right. So the book starts once again for the perspective of someone who we won't be following and who will get missing. They'll go missing.
Another young woman who needs to be saved in connection with the proto-molecule.
Yep. She's 4 this time. She's a little girl. And there's a proto-molecule monster, but it looks different. So I guess that's supposed to intrigue you. I don't know if I want to say it didn't intrigue me, because I already know the mystery. You solved it in the last book. You needed a different setup.
It's going to be a recurring problem. We hit a lot of the same beats of the last book. There's subtle differences. There's another Outer Planets guy who's shell-shocked and traumatized, and he's looking for a girl who was mixed up in the proto-molecule. And we got rid of Protogen, but did we? Did we get rid of all of Protogen? Oh my gosh.
The tension and the excitement is just overwhelming me.
Yeah.
We also have twice as many point of view characters this time around, so I hope that you didn't like the fast pacing of the previous book, because we're gonna slow it way down. I hope you like a lot of offices and talking in offices and reading reports about things other people did.
So we've got 4 point of view characters in this one. We've got Prax, who is the father of the girl who was taken, who is on a quest to find her, and his perspective is kind of the Ganymede perspective. We've got Holden, of course, who is
of course
Mal from Firefly in the wrong show. We've got
but he's changed, Ben.
we've got Avasarala, who is the UN Under Secretary General. I don't remember her title, but she's a very important politician.
She's the Assistant Under Secretary Lieutenant Junior class.
Yeah, and she's the politician from Earth. She's given us the Earth perspective. She curses a lot. That's interesting.
She says fuck a lot.
Yeah, but she's an old Indian woman who wears a sari, so that's at odds with her presentation. And that almost is a quirk that feels like a character. And then we got Bobby the Martian. She's large. She's Polynesian. She's attractive. Get used to hearing that.
I didn't know she was attractive until...
Wait until she meets Holden's crew, and every single one of them wants to jump her.
Oh my god, really?
Yes.
I only knew that she was attractive because you told me, and because Kolyar...
Did you get to the part where she gets naked on the ship?
Yeah, and she's like, "You're wonderful."
Yeah.
And it was like,
yeah.
That's not how I pictured her. I pictured her as a giant, jacked, like...
Right, she's supposed to be like a big muscler, like a wrestler almost.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So here's the thing, though. So for some of the books, she's described as like this big wrestler woman, but then when she gets on the ship with Holden and them, or somebody, I forget who's looking at her, but they describe her as looking like a surfer girl, only like 150% magnified.
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? That is not
No. Well, and
the
it's exactly
vibe I ever got.
It's at odds with the other description of it. Somebody has a muscle mommy fetish. That's what this is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, good for you, I guess.
Nothing
Like,
wrong with that. Perfect. Like of the fetishes, that's a perfectly wholesome one. But
keep it consistent, all right? If she's
yeah,
supposed to be a muscle mommy the entire time, just tell me that.
yeah, she's hot. She's large. She's large. That's probably her defining characteristic. She's very large. That comes up
Fucking giant.
all the time. Nothing is sized for her. They can't get a larger chair. No one else has ever been as big as her. Humanity is just not equipped to accommodate her size. It's amazing. You'd think in the future we could have a larger chair, but we can't. She has to sit at a little grade school desk. That's just how the UN works. That's the best the UN can offer. Alex Jones was right. They're a joke organization. And yeah, Avasarala is a 70-year-old Indian woman who says fuck and cunt, and that makes her interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I did see a ton of reviews that they were super excited that she was
Yep.
that she made her debut in this book. And so I'm guessing the portrayal of her in the TV series is really, really good, and she's really enjoyable to have on screen.
I did lie to you. I've seen one episode of The Expanse.
You cunt.
Long ago, I was sitting down with a friend of the show, Scott, aka Pizza Snail, who watches. He used to watch like everything on the Sci-Fi Network, and we sat down and we watched Expanse when it came out. And she, I think, is in the first episode, and she's very good. And like, I was shocked to see her in this show on the Sci-Fi Network because I've seen her in movies and stuff. And
from the network that brought you Sharknado 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly. But she was in this, and I was like, oh, she lends a certain amount of like gravitas and seriousness to this show. I was like, that. So yeah, the actress who plays her certainly adds a lot. I'm sure I understand why people were excited to see her. But and actually, I'll be honest with you, don't hate her addition, but with all four perspectives, I don't need Bobby and Avasarala.
Oh, yes, you do.
No, I don't. And in fact, at some point, the book just stops doing chapters from Bobby's perspective and just focuses on Avasarala, and Bobby's just a side character in her story.
I am looking at the chapter list, and yeah, she does stop. She does seem to get fewer and fewer mentions. Like,
she goes away and she comes back.
Yeah, she's still there, but like, not doesn't look like as often. You're right.
I didn't really need Bobby's perspective,
especially if you're a writer who like isn't in the military or wasn't in the military, and you don't understand the military.
I knew you were gonna have a problem with this.
We'll get to that. Well, it actually starts out with Bobby.
You know, right off the bat, we're on Ganymede, moon of Jupiter.
Yep.
And
they call
Ganymede,
it the Jovian system a lot, as if it's like a different star system, but it's not. It's just a different planetary
I don't
system,
know. That's fine.
the scale we're working with.
The
I
Jovian
thought that was
system,
good.
Yeah.
That's the scale we're working with. It is not easy to go from Earth to Jupiter or Earth to Uranus. That takes time.
Yeah, and so Ganymede is the breadbasket of the outer planets. It is one of the only habitable human colonies that has a natural magnetosphere, so it is protected from a lot of the radiation, not all of it. It is interesting because this is like a thing we're going to have to deal with as we go into space, and I'm glad they're talking about it, but like, I'm surprised how far humanity expanded without proper solutions to that problem. but you know, whatever. So Ganymede is a series of like domed farms with mirrors that reflect sunlight to properly feed the crops, and everybody on Ganymede is in support of this industry. They're all botanists, geneticists. They're all trying to come up with the next great crop that can grow in space. And so it's a very affluent, high-class society.
My kind of people, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also where everybody goes to have babies. To be
Yeah,
protected from
to
the
birth the babies in
from the
particular,
fetus killing radiation.
not to go there to make the babies, but I'm sure that happens.
I think that would definitely be a part of it, right? Like, I mean, you don't want to be pregnant in outer space. You're constantly bombarded with radiation.
Hey,
No,
you
and in
gotta
fact,
live a little.
I don't know if you
Live
got
a
to this.
little.
I don't know if you got to this part yet, but in fact, you're wrong. They are definitely made on Ganymede. He mentions there is a whole industry of like most of the pregnancies on Ganymede are implanted.
Ooh,
where they
okay.
make a bunch of zygotes
I like
and then
where
they
this
throw
is
out the
going.
ones with defects and they implant the good
where
ones
this is going. Getting the zygote going.
with a machine.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it then.
Okay, you're the doctor.
You know what else is on this planet, though? You know what else this great industry has? It has a random military base across from another random military base, as if this were red versus blue, except it's not supposed to be a joke. And
the political situation is such that both, like, the Outer Planets Alliance was in the last book formally recognized as like a government
instead of a terrorist organization.
Yeah. So they're like Space Al Qaeda, and now that's who Holden works for, by the way, Space Al Qaeda, and
Space Al Qaeda,
and now
Space Taliban, right?
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
likely.
yeah.
Al Qaeda is the one that we shoot on sight.
Right, yeah, they're totally separate. I forgot.
Yeah,
not a connection between the two.
There's a humongous connection between the two, and for a while there, they were synonymous in the American public's mind, but they are different.
Yes, one is the legitimate government of Afghanistan now, much like the OPA. So, but Earth and Mars used to have control of all of this, and now they are fighting over Ganymede. They're not sure who gets to keep Ganymede in the divorce.
Yeah, and so what they did is they parked some ships in orbit, right? And then they also put Marines on the ground. That way, you know, if one side accidentally shot at the other side, we could start a war. That's the only way I can figure that's why they both did this.
I think the closest parallel was probably like Guantanamo Bay back in the day.
I thought you were going to say Berlin.
Well, yeah, Berlin is a good example too. But I was thinking like Guantanamo Bay was one where like they were literally just like looking at each other. I guess they were in Berlin too.
Yeah, I didn't understand the reason for the Marines to be there.
I don't understand.
This wouldn't have bothered me if I didn't lose confidence in the writing as it went on, because I liked the technology they displayed, the suits of armor, the weaponry, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, why do you have Marines on the ground?
I question a lot of the military decisions.
You just own the sky around it, and it's yours.
So one of the things with the Expanse that I don't understand, and this is going to come up again and again, I understand why they have the military technology they do, kind of. In other like ship fighting sci-fi, there's usually a concept of a shield. Like there's some reason, and they mention this in the Expanse, that it is much cheaper to just strap a couple of engines to a rock and throw it at a planet than it is to build a warship. And so in a world where that's possible,
some planetary defense?
Yeah, what are the defenses? Because everything is very fragile because of the near future tech. And I get that. Like, I like that, but I don't understand how the politics and the economics haven't evolved to match the fragility of that situation. Because there's nothing protecting the orbital mirrors. There's nothing protecting the surface of Ganymede. It's literally just like a dome.
Isn't.
It's just a dome sitting there waiting for something to fall on it. I mean, you don't even need sophisticated weaponry. You just need something to fall on it. That would be enough.
That sure is what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So has nobody
you need some sort of defensive weaponry on the surface that could shoot up.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so right now we don't have some kind of like magic shielding technology or some kind like they do in Star Trek. But we do have artificially intelligent mechanical point defense systems, and they have that in this too. But
Why don't
they're
they
never
have it for planets.
they're never deployed on a large scale.
Yeah, they're on Holden's ship.
Oh, they're on every ship, but they're never deployed in orbit around like a planet. They're never deployed on the ground. Every planet is entirely vulnerable to this sort of attack. And here's the thing. Colonizing Ganymede, like, this is what I was never sure about. Because the near future tech makes...
Is there an abundance of colonizable planets and moons that we can afford to destroy 3 of them?
Well, not just that. How can you recolonize Ganymede? Like, I get that, like, a lot of the structural work is done and still good. But colonizing Ganymede must have represented like the gross domestic product of modern day Earth several times over. This is not a trivial endeavor. And it seems like if you drop a mirror on it, you know, that's a setback for humanity.
Yeah, it would be a big giant waste because everyone in the outer planets will starve now.
This is something I could forgive more easily if the characters were a little better. But the conflict itself, I just keep thinking like, and you're supposed to, I guess, like, because, you know, I know they're comparing it to why do we keep building nuclear weapons when we already have enough to kill everything? When, you know, why do we keep putting carbon dioxide in the atmosphere when we know it's going to kill us? Like humans do stupid shit. That's the write-off. And I could agree with that. But like, I just don't understand why no one plans for the contingency.
And the answer is we never thought it would happen, ?
Even though like the defense for it is it always happens.
Well, Ben, we've got Marines on the surface. If that mirror comes down, they'll just bench press it right back into orbit.
So what happens with the Marines on the surface? How does this all go south?
So Bobby is in the Martian Marine Force, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
she's very
the
large.
Earth people, yeah, she's humongous. She's in old armor because they couldn't build new armor to her specs. She's gigantic.
Again, she's just like humanity was not ready for a woman of this size. She's
She's gotta be at least 8 feet tall because there's a bunch of dudes who are 7 foot plus.
She is 2 meters tall.
Oh my god. What is that in, like, 6.5 feet? That is
not a lot.
Actually, not a lot at all. You're about a foot too short for this to be impressive. So,
yeah.
Huh. That's a bit anticlimactic. All right. That's all right. What else is new? We're doing it live, Ben. So, very tall Martian lady, muscle mommy, is like, wait, what? Slow down. The Earth Marines are shooting? Why are they shooting? Quick, everyone, double time over to this trench that we dug? I guess that's, alright, whatever. And then, they're like, wait a minute. They're charging towards us. There's a guy in the back that we probably should have noticed wasn't wearing a suit and is also, like, glowing? Like, he doesn't even look like a human anymore? Let's shoot at that. Now, I'm sure there's this... It would be a big damn mystery if I hadn't read, the first book, and I'm like, oh, this is the proto-molecule. Bullets are going through it, it's the proto-molecule. Black filaments falling off, it's proto-molecule. Okay, it's a different type of proto-molecule. It's been engineered to be more human-like, but it's proto-molecule.
I didn't hate that. I mean, I didn't realize the rest of the book was going to be based around nobody figuring that out immediately.
Yes,
yeah.
Immediately. Hey guys, are we going to talk about that monster? The proto-molecule. Call it what it is. It's very obviously that's what it is.
Yeah.
In fact, wasn't that part of the pitch Mr. Dresden, I don't remember his first name from the first book, said. We're going to try and engineer humans so that they don't have to have spacesuits anymore. They can survive in vacuum. They're super strong. And
Yep.
I guess all it took was an extra year. Give that guy a year, he could have accomplished his goals.
Can I throw out another thing?
Sure.
So we find out they're taking sick kids. Like, that's the girl who was initially kidnapped. She's sick. She's kidnapped by her doctor. So she trusts the doctor.
There's like 16 other kids who
right.
also.
And eventually, Prax will explain the condition they have very early on in the book. The condition they have is that their immune systems basically don't function without a sophisticated like medical treatment that they need to take all the time. And I immediately figured out, okay, obviously they're taking these kids because their immune systems won't interfere with the protomolecule when they inject it into them.
Whoa, Ben. Wow.
It takes Prax months to figure that out.
Yeah.
Even though they know here's the information that Prax has fairly early on. They took kids with immune system problems and they're doing protomolecule research.
Well, kidnapping kids might just be their side job. You gotta remember, last time these guys started an entire solar war just so that they could do research on Eros. That kind of made sense, because what they were doing on Eros was like, crimes against humanity.
Yeah. Well, and especially when your goal is to like engineer a human that can live in the vacuum of space, then it makes sense that you don't necessarily value the safety of Earth and Mars because you're planning on not needing them. Though I would have gotten a little further along with the research before I got rid of them myself. That's just me. But I don't know. The whole like, what are they doing with these kids? It's a big damn mystery. It's like, okay, guys, this book is 600 pages long. At 300 pages, I was well aware what they were doing with the kids. Everybody, I think, probably had guessed it.
Yes.
Can we move along?
We all read
now?
the last book.
Can
we all figured that was part of the buy-in on this book. If you didn't want me to read the last book, you should have told me.
So it turns out the Earth guys are running from the monster. They're running to the Martians for help. Everybody starts shooting, and then
the monster just tears through them and then explodes. And the only survivor was Bobby.
Yeah, but they don't have radio contact because these monsters produce radio waves, I guess, to interfere with everything.
I guess.
Yeah, so he's broadcasting on every frequency. And Bobby can't radio up to the ships in orbit to say, like, hey, we're all on the same side. We're fighting a third party. So the ships start fighting each other in space.
Yeah, you know what you do when like two squads of Marines shoot at each other? The immediate response is, let's escalate this into a full-on
bomb the
war.
planet.
Yeah. Like if we accidentally shot like a Russian soldier in Syria, Russia would just immediately launch all nukes at us. That's how that would work, right? We just escalate it as hard as we can.
Yeah, it depends, I guess, on how much of an excuse you're looking for to start a war, because wars have started over shit like that. The Lusitania or whatever, the Maine.
Yeah, which was bullshit.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So if somebody up there was looking to start a war, and we eventually find out somebody up there was looking to start a war, then it makes sense. I could forgive. Because
again, this didn't bother me until later. When you look back on it. No, I guess the ships in orbit shooting at each other made sense. I just still don't understand, why are there Marines there? It would make sense if they were guarding, like, the power supply for a defense grid or something, but they're just there. They're, like, patrolling around a barracks, right across from other guys patrolling around a barracks. It is red versus blue on Ganymede.
I don't know why they're on the surface.
Yes.
But I understand why they would be in the colony to maintain like a police presence or some air that, we're the legitimate government.
Yeah, but they're not mingling with the colony.
Well, so here's
at least when we see them.
Yeah, I was going to say,
hanging around a barracks, watching their counterparts hanging around a barracks.
This is another little thing that was mentioned towards the end of the book that I paid a lot more attention to than I think the authors intended. Bobby mentions that she went to like this restaurant when she first got
Yeah.
stationed on Ganymede. And so she was in the town, presumably. She was off duty eating at a restaurant, but they didn't just sit in the base. So
Yeah, because that would be stupid if they just sat in the base. Why are they patrolling around their base? Now we go to your favorite, and mine, James Holden. And Ben, I know he's your favorite character, so what has he been doing over the last year between the last book and this book?
he's been working. Sorry, I was going to say space. Like a space Taliban. He has been enforcing for them, basically. I don't know how else to put it. They pay him to go out and chase people down who have wronged them and blow them up.
Yeah, he's fighting what he would call space pirates. We don't know that, but I'll take his word for it, you know?
I'm sure.
I'm sure that they're bad people who did
Yeah.
bad things, and
Maybe they stole a Martian warship.
yeah. Can you imagine? That'd be awful
Yeah.
if someone just had a Martian warship and was imposing their will on the universe. That'd be terrifying.
Maybe they started a war that led to the death of millions.
And they started a war that led to the present unease that leads to further conflict.
Yeah. If it was somebody like that, I could definitely see shooting him.
Yeah. Shoot him, don't even talk to him. Just blow him up first, right?
He does talk to them, unfortunately. That's the
he
last
does.
thing they have to hear.
So Fred is like, hey, I need to send you specifically, to Ganymede. I need boots on the ground, and who better than like one of the most recognizable people in all of the solar system. Alright, so we could kind of just skip through chapter 3 real quick. That's Prax. He's introduced. Amir falls on Ganymede, destroys his farm, wrecks the surface, and then he realizes that his daughter has been stolen from daycare by someone who came up in the computer system as his daughter's mother, but it wasn't her. Intrigue and shock, Ben. And then we're back to Bobby. Bobby has PTSD. A lot of people have PTSD all at the same time. That was another thing. And it makes sense that they would all have PTSD, but like, one at a time, guys. I don't know. If you're going to have 4 different POVs, they need to be pretty distinct and different. And if they're all suffering from PTSD... I know. I shouldn't say all. They weren't all, but I think like 3
No,
of
Holden's
them
fine with what he did.
So, yeah, we're introduced briefly to Captain Thorson.
God, the names are terrible.
Son.
The names are
Yeah.
terrible.
Captain Thorson is like, Bobby, I can't believe that you single-handedly murdered your entire squad and all of the UN Marines. You've got a lot of explaining to do.
Bobby's like, oh no, we're doing the trope from the horror movie where the girl is the only survivor, but nobody believes her. And then she's like, wait, no, we're not. Subversion of expectations. Here's the video proof of it all.
And they're like, oh, it has a different firmware or some shit, I guess. All right.
It's a different encoding. You're trying to play it as an AVI, but it's an MP4. Oh, why didn't we think of that? And then they play it. They download VLC and they play it, and they're like, oh shit, you did. Oh my god, there was a monster. Bobby, you're a big damn hero.
Yeah, Bobby, I thought you would have ripped those people in half with your bare hands, but it turns out it was a monster.
Because you're so large, Bobby.
She's so large. She's 6'5". She's gigantic.
I just confuse you with a grizzly bear sometimes, you know? And I thought maybe you'd finally snapped, like you were out of honey, and now it's just like game on.
and you thought blood is just as good, and
Blood
you
and
lifted
honey.
a guy above your head, ripped him in half, and drank the blood that ran out of his midsection.
And then he's like, but don't worry, we're going to Earth. And then I think what's the next chapter? Avasarala, where she's like, and then she leaves.
She's eating pistachios, and she's at a UN meeting, and all the generals are like, you know what we should do? Let's just blow up Mars, right? Who's with me on blowing up Mars, right? Huh? Raise your hand if you want to blow up Mars. I mean, they provoked us, and we had to kill them, right? Right, guys? No one's raising their hand.
Avasarala is like, I'm as smart as I am subtle, you fucking cunt. And I am saying we're not blowing up Mars. And then she walks out of the room, and everybody's like, damn it, we can't blow up Mars. She's so smart and subtle.
Yeah, now we have to take this peace delegation. Fucking god damn it.
There's a lot of telling and not showing with Avasarala.
There is a lot, yes. I will say, I could see how an actress can bring a lot to her.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could do a lot more of the showing instead of telling.
I will go one better. I could see how an actor would bring a lot to Holden.
Yeah.
I could see how, like, facial expression, tone of voice, you could show there's a little bit of conflict in these lines. Like, you could show, like, I could see an interpretation of Holden where Holden's like, I did nothing wrong, but he doesn't really believe that. Like, an actor could portray a little bit of conflict in that. None of that is in the book. If that's what the actor does in the show, kudos to him. That's what he should do. But that is not what's on this page.
So we're introduced to Admiral Wynn. He was the guy who was, let's blow up Mars, who's with me? And her boss, Ehrenreich? Is that? Do you roll the R? Ehrenreich.
Yeah, her boss is Ehrenreich, and then who's the
bigger boss, the bobblehead, as she called him?
Yeah, like he's some kind of political prisoner turned politician.
Yeah, he sounded like some sort of like hero of some kind, but he sounded like politics.
Sounded like Nelson Mandela, except he was an idiot.
There you go. That's perfect.
I don't
Nelson
know.
Mandela, but dumb.
Yeah.
And we're also introduced to Soren, her lovable secretary, who does all the things she asks for.
Who names a character Soren?
Yeah, right? Only idiots.
I laughed a lot when I saw that. She's like, he's some kind of European. And I was like, oh, you're right where it hurts me.
There was a weird pulsation around Venus that happened right when the attack on Ganymede happened.
I wonder if they're connected.
So does she.
Wow, she's so smart and subtle.
Yeah, she also loves her granddaughters and her grandson, and
well, that's at odds with her
husband.
Vulgar language.
I know. She's different people for the situation as it requires.
There are exactly two facets to her personality, and that is one facet more than there is to anyone else's. She's so smart and subtle.
I will say, I actually liked her.
I do like her.
Except for all the cursing.
Yeah, I know.
The cursing felt forced. It felt like you were... Yeah.
Does it, you fucking cunt? I'm sorry. I know my mom listens to this podcast and she's going to yell at me for that. But that's what it's like.
No, that is.
So you haven't gotten this far, but again at the end, do you know why she curses? There's a backstory.
Oh god, there's a reason?
There's a reason why she curses.
Oh my god. Does it throw people off guard because you're not supposed to do that in polite society, and she's an Indian woman in a sari, and it throws you off?
It's a big part of it. But no, after her son died, she went through some PTSD.
What else is new?
And she refuses to take any political action that will result in children or innocents dying.
And
that made...
Oh, how could you know, though? Right?
And that made her weak. She... everybody thought she was weak. So she developed, like, the tactic. I forget what she calls it.
So she had to call them a cunt so that... Yeah. Like, oh my god, she actually is strong and
so
powerful.
If she opens up with, you fucking cunts... then she's tough, you know?
Yeah.
People who talk like that immediately command respect. I get it. I get what they're going for with that. but I was like, okay, it's funny. It's funny to imagine this prim, proper looking Indian grandma just having this like incredibly foul mouth.
Being Mom from Futurama.
Yeah. But I don't think that would dissuade any serious politician from going after her. I feel like they all talk like that behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Probably worse.
They speak the lingo.
I mean, how many politicians are like caught using terrible slurs all the time?
Yeah, that's her character. I don't know what more can we say about her for now. I mean, her story is going to go like glacier pace. The whole story is actually going to go glacier speed. She's worried about Mars because Mars has the protomolecule. Eros crashed into it at the end of the last book, and now it's like growing an entire like city on the surface, basically.
You're talking about Venus.
And
you said Mars.
Venus, sorry. I said Mars. I meant Venus. So Venus has like an alien structure across the entire planet, and it hasn't done anything yet outside of Venus, but it's really concerning when the next planet over has something that you can't comprehend that's mode of operation is to break down people into their component parts and use them.
Well, and again, I like everything about the protomolecule because I like the idea that it's sitting on Venus, it's transforming Venus, it's doing some kind of almost like terraforming, but it's not trying to make it Earth-like, it's trying to make it into some sort of machine. And it's doing that at a rapid pace in ways that they can't possibly understand. The scientists are just beginning to come up with theories that kind of explain some of it. And the bigger problem for Avasarala is that they can't control the information on this one. That's a big part of her job, is like reading between the lines and formulating press reports and manipulating information. And anybody with a telescope can look at Venus, which, credit to these guys, better than Ernest Klein right now. Because they did recognize that telescopes are a thing and just anybody can look at Venus anytime they want. But I'm basically going to skip her story because she doesn't do much.
We could talk about when it comes up, but yeah, her story is so slow and plotting.
Something happens, there's a press release, and she reads between all the lines, and she deduces all the hidden meanings, and she knows exactly who's useless and who's not, and she knows all this stuff, and blah, 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 blah. And then it turns out she was being played the whole time. She's actually an idiot. But no, she's not actually an idiot. She's not actually an idiot. She's still very smart. She just made one mistake. So now she's got to like do it all again, but this time it works.
Yeah, this time she's on the back foot.
Yeah. I don't hate her. She's a fun character, but like, it's like you said, I could do something.
Yeah.
It's been 400 pages. Do something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my thought. All right, so Holden's going to Ganymede. That's what we're going back to him. He's grown an amazing beard that's like gross.
That'll definitely
looks
beat
like shit.
2023's facial recognition software.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. They're going to Ganymede, and there are a bunch of ships in orbit from both sides, and they get boarded by one who will then check out the ship, and they got to be covert, right? Because if they tip off the UN or Mars that they're there, they're like the most wanted criminals in the entire solar system right now. So that'd be really bad for him.
Holden's like freaking out in the corner. He's like, "Oh man, I'm freaking out, man. They know we're bullshit, man."
Luckily, Amos is there to talk about how Marines don't have dicks anymore, but maybe they want to fuck each other anyway or something like that, to draw the attention away from Holden, because Holden, he can't be anyone but himself. He's just too damn righteous, goddammit. He can't be a criminal like he is. And then on their way out of the ship, there's this guy on Ganymede who's like, oh, this thing isn't on your cargo manifest. And you know how they're supposed to be like on the down low? They're not supposed to be drawing attention to themselves. Holden like shows that he has a gun, and he's like, yeah, I know this is a shakedown, and we're going to beat the fuck out of you if you come near me. Amos is just gonna pick you apart, and I'm James Holden, motherfucker. Don't tell anyone.
We had this conversation last time, but like, I feel like you put a weird emphasis on the second syllable of Amos.
Amos.
I don't know how, like you're. I'm feeling like
Amos.
I feel like I'm gaslit at this point. Like I was like,
good.
Is it Amos?
This is the words about books treatment. I'm gonna make you say Amos at some point.
You probably will. I was like, this is the simplest name of all of them, except maybe Alex.
Alex.
Yeah. Pretty sure it's Amos, but okay.
I think it's the least simple name. Naomi, Holden, Alex. Those are all names I'm familiar with. You can call me Mr. Not Putting Up With Your Bullshit. That's what big man Jim Holden says to this guy who's trying to shake them down. Again, this seems like it could have been something that was just cut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It makes him not seem like the unassuming nothing guy that he's supposed to be pretending to be, and it doesn't do anything to really either advance the plot or characterize anyone, and they solve the problem immediately. Wouldn't it have been interesting if, like, they had to keep a low profile, so as much as he wanted to just threaten these guys going in, he couldn't, because that might give him away? And so they had to come up with another way to solve this problem, other than violence, which is the easiest solution. Wouldn't that have been more interesting, Ben? I feel like that would have been more interesting. Or just cut it. Just cut it.
There is a point in the... I want to read something real quick.
I feel like I'm being very negative, and to be fair, the first third of this book drags so much.
Oh my god.
There's good stuff in here, and I am trying to highlight it, like I did like Ava Sarala. It's just she didn't do anything. She was fun to read, but it didn't go anywhere. I don't dislike most of these characters or situations, but I also didn't like them either, particularly. And it dragged.
Oh no. The first third is horrible. The second third is good. And then the final third is horrible. This whole scene on Ganymede, Holden on Ganymede, I'm going to walk you through it.
Okay.
So,
let's do it.
You get off the ship and you're
right, I do.
Yeah, you're confronted with two guys who want to shake you down. Now, roll an insight check.
All right. I got a 16.
Okay, so you know that these guys, they don't seem right. They're probably shaking you down. You notice there's some stuff on their uniform. It doesn't look like they're normal port security.
Oh, hell no. All right. That kind of makes me angry, Ben.
Okay, what are you going to do?
Let me see. Can I roll an intimidation check?
Yes, give me a roll.
All right, let me see. I got 15. I'm actually doing pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. So you pass. They run away terrified. So
perfect.
You walk into the next area, and you see there's like you go to your contact, and they're two old people. You're sort of helping them unload food. They're giving you a bunch of bullshit about how you didn't bring enough food, but you like them. You know, they're pretty nice people. But then you see there's like this riot kicking off. Right?
Oh my god, that's not good.
Yeah, and there's all these people. They're trying to get into the ship, but you know there's guards trying to prevent them from getting into the ship.
Oh my god. All right. So, can I do perception to see what are we rioting about?
Yeah, go ahead, roll.
All right, these are legitimate rolls, by the way. I got another 18, so I'm on a roll.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can overhear the tone of the crowd. They're going back and forth with the guards, like they're saying, you know, there's enough food on that ship to feed all of Ganymede for a year. You know, why are you sending it off planet?
It was like a week, but yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah, still that's a lot.
You know, you're there to bring food to Ganymede, so you're like, well, why are they sending food off of Ganymede? So, what are you gonna do?
Well, there's a lot of subtle nuances here. You know, if this guy,
now,
is there a company logo or something?
Yeah, so you can tell that they're from Mao Kawasaki. I forget what it was. And
Mao Quick.
Mao Nestle Quick. And
yeah. Oh shit. I remember them from the last book. from our last play session, they're pretty big.
Yeah,
Shit.
and you can tell they're armed. They're armed with both guns and stun batons.
Ooh, oh man. Okay.
And there's about 7 of them.
Okay. Well, I've already pissed off the government of both Mars and Earth, so I mean, I guess I could piss off more people. I would like to intimidate them. I got a 16.
I think you should probably use your point of inspiration.
Okay, I'm gonna. Does that mean I roll again? I can't remember.
Yeah, roll again.
All right, rolling again. 13. So. Oh boy.
Well, you're shot in the face immediately. You really needed a nat 20 to pass that intimidation check because you were going up against 7 armed guards and you were crossing a riot line. And yeah, there's no reason they wouldn't just shoot you in the face for walking up there. So sorry, total party kill. But that's not what happens in their game. They did roll a nat 20 and Holden was able to intimidate those guards into just walking away and giving them all the food.
Yeah. Yeah, that again, wouldn't it be more interesting if they had to solve the problem in a way that wasn't just I'm gonna threaten you?
I don't believe so. This is what happens. Holden walks up. I have had this situation in D&D games where it's like there's no way the characters are going to be able to do what they want to do, and then somebody rolls a nat 20 and the world just must accommodate. And that's what happens here. Holden walks up. There's no reason they wouldn't shoot him. They've got guns pointed at people who are like, if you take one more step towards me, I'm going to shoot you. And Holden just walks right up there. He shakes his hand. He's like, hey, I'm so-and-so from What's Its Nuts. And this is, you're going to have to give them that food.
I'm a terrorist. I'm from the Taliban, the space Taliban. What seems to be the trouble? And
then they take a look at him and he's like, nat 20. And they're like, oh God, you're so charming and roguish. And then they storm off and probably to go spend some bathtub time thinking about Holden. But
well, what happens is Naomi is like, hey, let's get an outer planet OPA gunship to strip this ship if it takes off. And it's like, yeah, but aren't there still Martian and UN ships in orbit? And isn't this one of the largest corporations in the solar system?
Oh.
Wouldn't they just you're going to threaten me with your tiny gunboat? I guess we'll just have to call in a small armada to protect it.
Not only that, but later on, Alex is going to have to run a blockade to get his ship anywhere near here.
Yeah.
So
it seems like it'd be really hard for the OPA, the Space Taliban, to take this ship. But, main character, he walked up to them and he said, hey, I'm part of the Space Taliban and you're gonna give us that food.
We keep saying Taliban. It's like there's a lot of things about the OPA that they don't oppress women and minorities and whatever. But yeah,
they're better than
they're obviously better than the Taliban. But that's how Earth sees them, and I think it's important to remember the vitriol with which Earth would see these people. They do not see them as freedom fighters,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Holden. He divides the loaves and the fishes and distributes them amongst the crowd, and then
Prax runs in and is like, "Hey, you're James Holden. I've been starving myself for weeks. You wanna help me find my daughter?"
Oh yeah, so this guy walks up to you and he's dressed in rags and he looks like he's starving for weeks, and he walks up to you with a side quest and he's like, I need you to help me find my daughter.
Ooh, side quests. Yeah,
exactly.
Let's do it. How hard could it be?
Okay, well, first we're going to need to find a can of chicken.
Oh, we've got tons of those.
Awesome.
Came in on the station. Yeah.
So it's already in your inventory. So you've already got the chicken. So why don't you just grab me a case of chicken. Now, that is going to count against your carry weight. So you might want to have Amos. He has a higher strength score. He'll carry the chicken.
Yeah, obviously.
I almost wonder if they weren't just writing their campaign.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Holden does come off as very
Main
the main character, so I can get away with a little more. Bobby also kind of comes off as that in a way.
They all do, except Prax, who is Miller but weak.
So Bobby is taken to the UN Martian peace talk, and she's with Thorson and a doctor.
Oh my god, I forgot we cut away from Ganymede. That's why I didn't like. That's why this book drags so fucking long.
Yes, we actually had to cut stuff out in this discussion.
Yeah,
so
we're cutting all the Avasaralas.
So Bobby is like, why aren't we talking about the monster? Because the talks are just going on and on. She starts yelling and she causes a scene and she storms out and Thorson...
Ah, dang it, Bobby. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Well, and they're Martians, so they all sound like they're from Texas, so it totally fits. That's what he sounds like. He sounds like Hank Hill.
Oh my god, okay. Oh yeah, and... So he's like, you just destroyed your career. And she was like, fuck you, I'm out. And Avasarala runs into her in a bar and is like, you should work for me. And then later on, Bobby's like, yeah, I quit laters. And it's like, you can't just quit the Marine Corps. You can't just be like, hey, I'm going to go and work I'm going to work as a liaison for this other government. That's my position now. So, bye.
Can I make it worse for you?
Yes, please do.
She didn't quit. They're still paying her.
What?
Yeah, she mentions
that. Why?
She's technically a liaison employed by both sides.
What?
Like, Avasarala isn't paying her. Avasarala is covering her expenses. The Martian military is still providing her salary.
Huh?
Yeah, that's the arrangement.
Why? How?
Hang on. Let me hang on.
So we have US people in a foreign embassy, right? And I'm pretty sure the US pays for those people to be there. I don't think that the foreign government just decides to, yeah, we'll pay you. Just like we don't pay for them to be here. And she does quit and go AWOL. But they're like, Avasarala, she made some calls and she got you into a position because she has contacts everywhere. It's like, okay, but like, she quit. Whatever. I thought it was really dumb. And this is when we learn that Soren really sucks because Bobby runs into him, and man, he seems really untrustworthy and not a good guy.
It's gonna be tough for
Avasarala a bitch, and yeah, it turns out Soren's not good because Bobby has this perspective that he's not good.
Well, it's gonna be tough because he does something mysterious, and she follows him one day.
And she's 2 meters tall. So...
It's gonna be really tough for her to follow him because she's so big.
Yeah, 2 meters. I guess
she has to duck when she goes through doors.
She does. It doesn't make sense. She's 6'5". What is happening? I thought she was like 7 foot.
And yeah, it's
it's tough being a whole 2 meters tall.
Did you know she was Polynesian?
I didn't, but you told me she was.
Do you know how many times they bring that up? With all the, like, sensitivity of Peter Griffin's erotica.
Welcome to Peterotica on tape. I'm Betty White reading The Hot Chick Who Was Italian, or maybe some kind of Spanish, by Peter Griffin.
Well, they bring up that 2 separate characters are Punjab. They've got that Punjab look.
So this is one where I was like trying to figure out who writes what, and I'm pretty sure that the guy who writes Holden also writes
Avasarala,
yeah.
Yeah, we were both pretty sure.
The giveaway for me was Holden mentions that Alex speaks with a Texan accent. And it's strange because he has the physical features of a South Asian person. And
Oh my god, that's so weird.
yeah,
How weird that is.
There's
Oh my
literally
God.
nobody that looks and speaks like that today. Probably not in Texas. And he says something like a face that looked like it should be speaking Punjabi. This Texan accent came out of it, and I'm like, that's a really specific reference to like the 16th largest state in India. Why? I know people. Like a lot of my friends are Indian, and I know people from a lot of different parts of India. And I was like, if I hadn't known them, I would never know where Punjab was. And that just caught my ears like that's weird. And then later, Avasarala comments that there is another guy who looks South Asian, who has a face that wouldn't be out of place in Punjab, but he's speaking like a British person. And I know there's a lot of Indian people who speak with a British accent.
Yeah.
So I was like,
The British were there for a few hundred
I was
years.
like, why, is it so weird to you that Indian people might speak with different accents? And second, why Punjab? And I was like, is that just like the only state you know? Why not like Tamil Nadu or, Maharashtra or...
Yes, that is. I don't know those states. They
Like-
didn't have a wrestling match named after those. So
Yeah, I was like,
I only know Punjab because of the Punjabi prison, Ben.
I was just like, why? So I was like, it's such a specific thing to say. I was like, that's got to be the same guy, or it's like a nod to somebody they know. I don't know. It was just odd. I'm not calling them racist or anything, but I don't like the guy who writes Hole. My thought is I don't know, I didn't look it up to see if they ever commented on it, but my thought is they each took two characters, and because Holden and Miller were the characters in the first one. Holden is like this adventure-y, goofy guy, and Miller is this noir detective. And so Holden is, still the adventure-y, goofy guy, and Avasarala is the more serious character. And then I think the other guy might have taken like Bobby, who is kind of goofy, and Prax, who is more serious. Tough to say.
So I guess let's do the rest of the actual plot. So just know that Bobby and Avasarala, they're out there and they're talking a lot and they're talking a lot and they're talking a lot. Meanwhile, Holden and Prax go looking for Prax's daughter, and Holden, they go to a hacker, a computer hacker kid. And Prax had used him earlier, gave him some salad in exchange for hacking the camera to figure out that Dr. Strickland, his May being his daughter, May's doctor, and some woman took her.
Never find out who that woman is, by the way.
Really? I just assumed she was part of, Protogen 2.0.
No, she is, but like she's like his handler or something. There's this whole big thing, and like they walk in on a conversation with her and him at the end, and he blows her head off, and you never find out who she is.
Oh, well, okay, good. Guess I won't care about the only one part of the mystery that's still left to solve, because it wasn't important. All right. And Prax is like, all right, can we follow her through the station security cameras? And the kid was like, not without chicken. And that was like 4 chapters ago. And now we're back at Holden. Holden's got chicken. And they're like, hey, we got a can of chicken. Let's do this. And the kid's like, sounds like you got more chicken than that.
Can I pause you for a second and
Okay.
interrupt you the way you interrupt me?
Okay.
I just found the quote I was looking for.
Okay.
This is Bobby. I don't know who the hell I work for anymore. I think I'm still pulling a salary from Mars, but all my dailies are out of her office budget. I've pretty much been playing it all as it comes.
Cut that part out completely. Remove that part. You didn't need to bring that up. It's really dumb. The whole situation's dumb already. Stop trying to make it make sense. It's too stupid. This kept reminding me of Edenverse, and that is not a compliment. I kept thinking, wow, this is something I might write, and I suck at writing. This is not something you want to be reminding me of.
Okay, here's the thing though. In fairness to Edenverse, I don't think Edenverse was a disaster. It was an experiment. And we didn't know what we were doing. We would do it differently.
It's available for $1 on Amazon. Just throwing that out there.
But we learned a lot doing it. It wound up leading to this podcast. I don't hate that we did Edenverse, but it is an extreme challenge for two authors, especially two authors like us or like these guys, who have very different writing styles, to come together and write one coherent story. And The Expanse, or this book, Caliban's War in specific, if this were an experimental writing thing, I could forgive all of it. Like the bloat, the inconsistencies, the bad characterization, I could forgive all of it because it's still pretty good for two guys trying to write a decent sci-fi story. What it's not pretty good for is a super bestseller, super popular adaptation sci-fi epic.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is I read a lot and I read a lot of shit. And expectation is important.
It's not changing anytime soon, buddy.
No, sorry. I know. But
the next one is pretty bad as well, and bloated, and it's only 400 pages, and it goes on for fucking ever.
It does remind me of Edenverse. It reminds me of an experiment, of experimental writing. It doesn't remind me of like a polished, like whenever you tell me you have a 9-book series, too many books. I can already tell you if you have a 9-book series, if those are not each individual stories, if that is supposed to be one coherent plot from start to end, cut 4 books. Minimum.
For example, this book right here.
You could. I suspect in the grand scheme of The Expanse, this entire book does not matter at all.
Probably not.
None of this happened if we went straight to book 3.
My friend actually thought that this was, he thought book 3 was this book. He forgot about this book.
Yeah.
No, he's recommending stuff.
Nothing that happens in this book, I can already tell by the way it ends, that nothing that happens in this book matters. This book exists solely to introduce the character of Avasarala and maybe change up and solidify Holden's relationship with his crew a little bit. Believe it or not,
now.
Believe it or not,
so
Nate,
different.
The entire point of this book is to do character work.
Okay, I'll take your word for that one, Ben.
No, it absolutely is. Those are the only lasting effects. This entire conflict is resolved with none of the status quo changing.
Oh, God.
Earth and Mars are still not at war, and the proto-molecule is still doing its thing. That's the end.
So my thing was, this book felt like the first book, except worse. Not as well paced. Just a lot of the same beats of the first, but slower and not as good. And the first book had to build mystery and build the world. And this book, the mystery was solved last book, basically. And the world was built last book. So I guess you could have cut it down, but you decided you had to have the same length as the previous book. I don't know. It drags and it drags and it drags.
It's time for book 2. Let's come up with an outline for book 2, and let's say we'll do 54 chapters. I'll take 22, you take 20, or 54 chapters. I'll take 27, you take 27, and I'll do 2 POV characters. You do 2 POV characters. We'll alternate chapters, and then we'll edit each other's chapters. And that's why there's so much bloat, because that's how they did it. They had to decide to divide the work evenly. They had to decide on the scope before they started writing, or at the early outline stage.
All right. So do we want to proceed? Because we've done a decent chunk of recording. Well, I guess we can do the final part here, where Holden goes and they figured out where where May was taken, and now they're going to go in there.
They got the chicken. Amos beat the shit out of the guy with the chicken because he's holding the guy's daughter hostage.
You're holding the guy's daughter, and Holden was like, Naomi, is there anything that I should know about Amos that makes him, like, really not like when kids get kidnapped? Because that would be, that would be important.
Is there a reason Amos is especially sensitive to child sex trafficking?
Yeah, that's basically what he asked. It's like, oh, it's a little weird how mad he got. It's like, is it?
Is it?
I feel like maybe you should be a little more upset if you think that's weird.
I don't mind that Amos beamed this guy in the face with a can of chicken, but I'm not like you guys. I don't understand why you have so much of a problem when, like, horrible people get theirs. I don't know why that bothers you guys so much. Anyway, yeah, so Amos beats the answers out of this guy with a can of chicken, and it was glorious, damn it. It was the best scene in the fucking book.
And then they found that there's an unused maintenance shaft, and they're gonna go down there, and on the way there, they're stopped by random faceless guards and
red shirts, if you will.
Yeah,
we're
but they're
pink
called
red
pink
shirt
water. Yeah, pink water. Yeah. Yeah, that's some intimidating, funny stuff. It's like Blackwater, but pink. Oh man,
it's like Blackwater,
but
we don't
coming.
Like Blackwater is a terrible organization full of guys who are like obsessed with their own masculinity. So let's call them Pinkwater in a book they won't read because they don't read books. And we got.
I didn't know if this was a funny haha world or like a super serious world, but why not both? So then they're like, all right, red shirts with me. We're going to save a little girl. And then they go through a very long, elaborate infiltration that's pretty boring. And it ends with they find a dead child that Prax recognizes. It's not his daughter. And then they walk in on a bunch of mercenaries who are loading up gear. And they're like, freeze! We're going to disarm you. And she's like, no, you're not going to disarm us. Even though you got the drop on us. There's 20 of us, and her head explodes because Prax shot her in the face, I think, on accident.
He meant to cock his gun to intimidate her, but I think he forgot, like, his finger was on the trigger, and he cocked the gun, and it doesn't take a lot of force to pull a trigger on a gun. And
yeah, also, you know how I don't know much about guns, but I read that they usually don't require you to manually cock them. They're already already ready to go. So, that's a Hollywood thing.
Well, like, if you have a revolver, then yeah, but like...
Yeah, but these are futuristic space guns.
So. No, if you have a semi-auto, that's what semi-auto means.
Yeah. So, yeah, he accidentally blows her fucking head off of her head. Then they get in a firefight. And a bunch of red shirts die, and the mercenaries die, and then they retreat. And then they throw a grenade, and Amos is like, I've played Call of Duty. You just have to hit the right bumper. And, I threw it back at him, and it exploded, and everyone got slaughtered. And they're like, wow, it's really weird. All these people died that we didn't shoot. Huh. Isn't that strange? That's strange, right?
Must have rolled a crit on that grenade.
Yeah. And then
there's a cage that's busted open, like horror movie style.
I don't know. Don't think about that. Who knows what that is? And then they see a ship taking off on a hidden landing pad. They're like, shit, they got away. And then they see the proto-molecule. Oh my god, the tension is rising. There's a proto-molecule, I guess.
And Holden has an absolute panic attack.
Oh yeah, I guess he's like, we gotta get out of here because they're gonna do an Eros. I'm suddenly feeling things and it's panic. Run.
One of the red shirts is gut shot, and Holden's like, leave him, we gotta go. And they're like, we're not doing that, Holden. He's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I
can't believe I'm turning into a different person.
That was a little bit of panic, Holden, there.
Yeah.
I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling so much fear. And I feel guilt about feeling fear. I say this as a person who has been to like therapy for a panic disorder, and even I am like, God, shut up, you baby. Like, I'm just like, see a therapist or don't see a therapist. Just shut up. I hate Holden so much.
And then they double time it back to the docks, whatever red shirts they have left. And then they get captured by UNN soldiers. They don't know they're UNN soldiers, but we know because Avasarala ordered this, so there's no tension or mystery. Again, don't worry. They will break out of their restraints next chapter, no problem, like those restraints didn't even exist.
I was going to say, I got the feeling that this happened like towards the end of the session where like we're in the middle of a fight, but like everybody kind of wants to leave. So you're trying to wrap it up real quick and you're like, okay, like you do the combat real quick. And then you're like, and then you guys get to the ship and we'll come back next week and we'll start from like, you guys are in the ship.
Yeah, they got captured. The end.
Well, they didn't get, they got captured and then they got out.
Yeah, they got captured. And then at the beginning of the next session, they rolled a strength check. You only need a DC of 10 to get out of those zip ties, apparently. And they subdue all the Marines like the Marines weren't even there.
Oh yeah, they all like do it with their feet.
Yeah, they defeat a squad. I guess it wasn't the whole squad because they're distracted. We'll get to that next time. But
and there's a fake out where Amos gets shot in the head. Did you believe for a second he got shot in the head?
No, I didn't even realize that was the thing. I mean, it was a beanbag round or whatever. It took him down. And he falls and hits his nose and blood goes everywhere, but it looks like he actually got shot to death. And don't worry, in the next session, he will comically rearrange his nose back so that he can speak normally, because that's how anatomy works. Tell me if this is a realistic world or if this is space fantasy. I can get behind one, I can't get behind both at the same time. You either have a Death Star and magic force powers, or you're talking about the shields are down to 75%, we need to reroute power to the whatever, and we need to use our magic dish thing that we need to recalibrate to blah, blah, blah. You gotta tell me which version of space magic this is. Is it space science, or is it space fantasy? I don't care, but it can't be both simultaneously. You can't tell me that, like, oh, there's this massive child prostitution ring, and later we will learn that
it gets so weird and dark, yeah.
There's a weird dark thing about having sex with pregnant prostitutes, and it's like, whoa, that's weird and not at all what I got whiplash from that one. And then it's like Holden's smiling and punching people or threatening people with punching, and he's casually just strolling through the plot like he's the main character, and it's just this weird tonal whiplash between, is this a dark, shitty world, or is this Jim Holden saves the universe? Pick one. Can't be both.
The single biggest argument, I think, in favor of this book didn't need to happen.
The fact that all the important stuff happens in the fucking epilogue, apparently,
is how every fight that Holden and the main characters are in, they have to pick up unnamed red shirts.
Yeah, because someone's got to die on their side, but it can't be Holden or Amos.
Yeah, so they pick up characters you have no attachment to whatsoever, and they die in the firefight to add tension, but it doesn't add tension. And we've talked about this before. There are different preferences on this. I know that there are people out there who like action in their books, and they like descriptions of action. I'm not one. I find that very boring.
I like action when it is quick and punchy.
Yeah.
You can have a firefight, but it's got to be like 2 pages. You got to get in, you got to shoot, and you got to move on. You can't You can't tell me about, okay, there's a corridor we came to, and we had someone stay at the T-junction, and they're going to guard the corridor for anyone else who comes in, and then we're going to move on to the next corridor, and our next red shirt is going to guard this corridor, it's another T-junction, and we're going to open this we're going to hack this door, we're going to go into this next lab, and there's no one there, and we're going to hack into this bay, and there's a bunch of guys there, and then we shot at them, and then we got behind crates, and we got... It's like, okay, we're done here. We were done here a while ago.
I'm gonna give one example here about like action in a book. Too much of this book to me feels like somebody describing a movie to me. I don't like that. I can
see that.
I have heard authors just say that they purposely go for that. Like Kevin J. Anderson describes his style as cinematic, and people like his books. I don't know. I'm not one. I don't like somebody describing a movie to me. I think the things that work in a movie work because you can see them.
Yes.
Now, maybe if you have an incredibly vivid imagination, this is amazing for you.
I just see full-on cinematic movies when I read books, Ben.
I know there are people who say they do. I have no choice but to believe them. I have no choice but to believe them. They're certainly not just weird people that want me to think their brain is special. But
my brain is special.
Yeah, it is. But what I was going to say is, to me, action in a book and action in a movie to some extent, like you can have a martial arts movie where the display is the point. But when telling a story, action should represent something connected to the character. Like,
yes.
By that I mean, let's just take a real simple example of like a mage errant. When they go into the labyrinth and Hugh has his little stones with the stuff carved on them to be wards, like his ward stones. That's an interesting use of powers he's been developing that had a special meaning to him. It was like one of the only things he was good at. And so when he uses them and they work, they blow something up, that's a payoff because he used the tools he had available to him to achieve a result. That's a good payoff. Like when Prax accidentally shoots the girl in the face, that is good action. Because that is something about his character. He's a nervous, twitchy dude who doesn't know what he's doing, and he's in super over his head, and he starts a big fight. I think that worked.
We can do one better. Red Letter Media's like most popular video ever about Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're fighting, and then they're fighting, and then they're fighting, and then they're fighting, and then they're fighting, and it goes on forever to the point where you just kind of lose track of it. It's no longer important because it's no longer about the characters, it's about the fight.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground! You underestimate my power! Don't try it!
I don't know exactly what the rules are. I can't tell you exactly how to make an action scene work. There are classes on that. There are plenty of thoughts on that. All I can say is I don't think anyone in any writing class ever has recommended put your character in a situation and then add some NPCs to spice up the action.
Yeah, add some NPCs who will die to make it more enjoyable.
I mean, that's just bad writing. That's objectively bad writing. I don't think anyone can defend that decision. And it happens again and again. If you notice, every time Holden's ship goes into a big fight, they're outnumbered and they have to trick other ships into fighting each other, or they have to trick other people into allying with them. That'll be the big space battle at the end. Avasarala convinces a bunch of the UN ships to turn, and so the UN ships start fighting, and the only ships that get blown up are the NPC ships that you don't care about anybody on. You don't know any of these captains, and the few captains you do know, never in danger. Anyone who you might care about is never in danger in this book. The closest you get is May, because you don't know what's going to happen with May, and if May is dead, that is going to destroy Prax, and you do care about Prax. But there's nothing he can do to save her faster. So there's tension when they go looking for May and they don't find her, or she's in another castle. Like, I don't know. It's very gamey, but games
Good
work
reason.
because you're playing them. When you roll a nat 20 in a game and you get to do something stupid, it's funny. When you roll a nat 20 in a book and you get to do something stupid, that's bad writing.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to continue to make this point over and over again as we go into the next episodes.
So, we're going to wrap up here. This is about a third of the way into the book, believe it or not.
I can tell you right now, looking at the time we've been recording, I am going to edit this episode more thoroughly than they edited the book. I'm not joking.
I know you're not joking. Alright, so we will pick up next time with the second third of the book, which, while better, I still think there's a lot of fluff here.
Absolutely.
So, alright, Ben, do your outro, shout-outs,
All right.
all that fun stuff.
All right. First off, shout outs. Shout out to James of the If You Want the Gravy blog. You do want the gravy. Go get it. But you better bring the biscuits. And then a shout out to Brad, aka Isekai Sensei Sama of the That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster podcast. I think I did it right that time. Sorry, Brad. Then, if you want to find us on the internet, we got a blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. We got a Twitter at WABpod for as long as that lasts. We've got an Instagram, Words About Books Podcast. We have a Mastodon now. And I think that is at WABpod at book bet. God, Mastodon sucks. And then, yeah, we're at Mastodon. I don't know. Email me. You can email me at wordsaboutbookspod@gmail.com. Email me and I will tell you my Mastodon. And then you can talk to me on Mastodon. Mastodon is just, people are like, oh, why does everybody talk about how hard Mastodon is and not how good Mastodon is? And it's like, because it fucking sucks. Anyway, I don't think I missed anything there. So find us there. Two more episodes of this, huh?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.